All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS for Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakim bringing out this word and diligence in the truth. And as you see, the title of something along the lines will be Ephraim and Manasseh, Joseph's seeds received the inheritance, right? Speaking about his two sons. So I want to get into, the origin, right? Going back into when, the Most High Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and gave forth the covenant and establishing that covenant between the generations of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Because in doing so, and we see later in Genesis, the 48th chapter, how that blessing was then passed down unto Ephraim and Manasseh. So this is Genesis 17:7. Matter of fact, 17:5, it says, "Neither shall thy name anymore be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee, and I'll make thee exceeding fruitful, and I'll make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee." Right? We understand the 12 tribes are nations of kings and priests, especially when we go into, the elect, man. Right? Out of these same 12, it consists 12,000 out of each of the 12 tribes, right? Which will be the governing body in the kingdom to come, which will be established on earth, as the scripture says in the prayer of Matthew, the 6th chapter. Genesis 17:7, it says, "And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a power unto thee and to thy seed after thee." Right? Basically meaning what? That covenant is going to extend, through him and pass down into the lineages of his sons, right? And that's why the promises is only for who? Israelites. That's why the covenants are only for who? Israelites, right? The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and those who are scattered, whose seed line or whose fathers go back into these same men, right? Because we understand Israel was scattered as a nation due to what? Our disobedience. So you're going to have Israelites that look like Chinese. You're going to have Israelites that look like East Indians. You're going to have Israelites that look like so-called white people, right? You have Israelites that look like all nations because we were scattered amongst all these nations, man. But it's about that seed line, right? As the scripture says in the book of Romans 8, right? The spirit beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, right? 8, it says, "And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan," right? Which we understand the Canaanites had to be destroyed out of that land due to what? Their wickedness, their odious works of witchcraft. When you go into the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the I believe it's the 12th chapter, right? It goes into all the different madness and wickedness that the Canaanites were doing in the promised land. Hence, Yahweh Shemel Shai gave us that actual land for our inheritance as we went in there and destroyed them, right? But that land was always destined for us, though they were living there, right? It says, "And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their power," right? So the Lord is going to be our power. "And Yahweh said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations," right? Now, I'm going to go to that same promise as it was spoken unto Isaac. This is Genesis 26 and 3. It says, "Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed," right? Understanding that Isaac is the seed of Abraham, "I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father," showing you that that same promise was established in Isaac's father Abraham and passed down unto Isaac. "And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed all the nations of the earth be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws," right? So the same promise was established within who? Isaac. So we're going to get that same promise established in who? Isaac's son Jacob, right? Because we understand it skipped the seed of the bondwoman, which was who? The woman was Hagar, the son was Ishmael, right? But the blessing was not established with Ishmael, it was established in Isaac. Though Isaac was born after Ishmael, Ishmael was not the seed of the promise. Isaac was. And that blessing was established through Isaac, you know? And we're going to read that. This is Genesis 18:23. It's like Genesis 28:13, right? And you see it says Jacob, whose name was later changed into what? Israel, after he what? Wrestled the angel. This is Genesis 28:13. It says, and behold, the Lord Yahweh stood above it and said, I am the Lord power Yahweh of Abraham, thy father, and the power of Isaac, right? Which is Jacob's father. The land wherein thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt be spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Right? So through those descendants, it will be blessed. Right? Now, when we go into bringing Joseph in the equation, right? Understanding that Joseph was a son of who? Of Isaac. Right? Now I'm going to start the top. Matter of fact, let me just grab this. I'm gonna start up. This is Genesis 30. Right? This is basically the sons being born. Right? The sons of Jacob being born. This is Genesis 30. And I'm gonna start here at I'll start 19. It says, and Leah conceived again, and Jacob stuck and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, Yahweh hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Yahweh remembered Rachel, and Yahweh hearkened to her, and opened her womb. Right? And she conceived, meaning Rachel, and bare a son, and said, Yahweh hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, right, which is Yahweh, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away, that I may go into mine own place, into my own, that's like into my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for that knowest my service which I have done thee. Right, just showing that Joseph was a son, of Jacob. Right, so now when we go into Genesis, the 48th chapter, oops. Going to Genesis, the 48th chapter. I'm going to start at the top. It says, and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, right? And we understand that this is after Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, right? And he was what? This was after, he was made forth or given forth the position in Egypt. This was after he was sent to jail or prison because he didn't sleep with Pharaoh's wife, right? Because she kept trying to seize him or grape him, right? Force herself upon him, but he wouldn't do it. So after he ran away from her and she had his garment because she was trying to basically take Joseph, right? He was sent to jail or prison. This is after he did what? He broke down the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, right? And then Pharaoh had a dream of what? The 7 years of plenteous, the 7 years of dearth, which is famine, right? So this is after. This is when he was given his position again in the house of Egypt. His brothers came unto him during that time of famine, right? So read that account, right? Read that account. It's a lot of history, in Genesis, right? But this is after his brothers came back unto him because there was that great famine in that land, right? And Egypt had stock, they had food left, right? So they were able to distribute, or barter, so to speak, in order for families to get fed, right? So this is after um, Joseph was reunited with his brethren, his father, and family, man. It says, and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, right? Which these are the sons of Joseph, right? You could read that in Genesis, the 41st chapter. Matter of fact, let's just grab it. There's no point of saying it. Let's just prove it. It's Genesis 41. I believe it's also is before it happened before this too. It's spoken of before this. It's 41 and 46. Spoken of in the 41st chapter. I believe also the 46th chapter of Joseph and Ephraim. I mean, it's like of Manasseh and Ephraim. Here we go. Sons of Joseph, right? Genesis 41 and 50 says, and unto Joseph were born two sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yahweh said, he hath made me forget all my toil in all my father's house. 41 and 52, it says, in the name of the second he called Ephraim, for Yahweh hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Right? So just proving these are his sons. This is back in Genesis 48, verse 1. It says, and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, thy father is sick, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Right? Israel, whose name was changed to Israel, his latter name being what? Salakia. And one told Jacob and said, Jacob, and said, behold, thy son Joseph coming unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, Yahweh Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. Right? And we read the blessing in which Israel, or I should say Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? We read the blessing that was established between them and their seed lines from the Most High. Right? So it's saying, it says, and Jacob said unto Joseph, Yahweh Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said unto me, behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to the seed after thee for an everlasting possession. Right? And we read this for each of those three men. It says, and now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. Right? So this is ownership, right, of them being placed into the covenant as the rest of the 12. Though they're sons of Joseph, they're sons of Jacob, right? When we're reading in 48 in the NLT, it says, now I am claiming as my own sons these two boys of yours, Ephraim and Manasseh, right? So they're included within the 12 as he claimed them as his own sons who were born here in the land of Egypt before I arrived. They will be my sons, just as Reuben and Simeon are. Right? Reuben being the firstborn of who? Of Jacob. Well, he's saying, guess what? Ephraim and Manasseh are my sons as well. Though they came out of the loins of Joseph, they are the sons of Jacob, hence being a part of the 12. It says, and thy issue, which thou begattest after them, shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. Right? It says, I gotta keep reading. It says, and as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan, in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephraim, and I buried her there in the way of Ephrath, the same as Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, they are my sons, whom Yahweh hath given me in this place. And he said, bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Right? Now the eyes of Israel were dim for his age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, Yahweh hath showed me also thy seed. Basically, when you go back into the account, when the brothers sold off Joseph, they told him that he was basically torn apart in Eden, by a by a ravenous beast, right? So Jacob mourned for Joseph, thinking that he was dead. It wasn't until he was brought into the land of Egypt that he was told, right, and basically found out and was reconciled back with his son Joseph, whom he thought was killed, right? So that's why he's saying, I never thought I would see your face again. Basically, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, Yahweh hath showed me also thy seed, right? So now he's saying, I never thought I was going to see you again, thought you was dead, but now Yahweh has shown me mercy and actually is showing me even your seed. I'm blessed to see your sons, right? And Joseph brought them out from between his knees and bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, right? And we understand Yahweh Shemel Shai does as he pleases, right? Because as the birthright, or the promise, I should say, wasn't given unto the firstborn of Isaac, which was who? Ishmael. It was passed down to the younger son. Slacking, making sure I said that right. How the birthright was passed down to the younger son Isaac and not passed down to the firstborn Ishmael. Well, we see that same thing happen to who? Jacob and Esau. Esau came out first, but the covenants, the promises were passed down to who? The blessing, the birthright was given unto who? Jacob. That's why the scripture tells us in the New Testament, before the children yet being born, right, it was always predestined for Jacob to get it and not Esau. Well, the same is going to happen with Manasseh and Ephraim. Ephraim was born last. Manasseh was born first. But Ephraim, and we're going to read it. Let's read what happens unto Ephraim and Manasseh, right? Genesis 48:12. It says, and Joseph brought them out from between his knees and bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Right? So though Manasseh was the firstborn, we see that he gave that blessing, ultimately Ephraim being what? The head of the northern kingdom with the blessing. It says, and he blessed Joseph and said, Yahweh, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the power which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, capital A, right? Who was that? It says, and they let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. It says, and when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it. My son, I know it. He shall become a people, and he shall also be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, in thee shall Israel bless, saying, Yahweh make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he said Ephraim before Manasseh. So there it is. Manasseh, or it's like Ephraim and Manasseh being established as part of the 12. Now, when we go into the book of Salakia, let me grab it. I got a lot of tabs open. Right? We understand that Ephraim and Joseph are synonymous. So when we go into scriptures like Ezekiel the 37th chapter, and we go into the stick, this is Ezekiel 37:15. The word of Yahweh came unto me again, saying, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions, right? The sons, the 12, says, then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, right? Showing you that they're synonymous, interchangeable, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. That's why the scripture speaks about in Judah and Ephraim shall be oppressed together, right? That's both the northern and the southern kingdom, or it's like the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom being oppressed together. Ephraim being the head of the northern kingdom, right? It says, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thy hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, thus saith the power of Yahweh, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, right? Joseph and Ephraim being synonymous, being one and the same. Though you still do have Manasseh, because we're going to go into Revelation 7 and 21. It's like a chapter 7, chapters 21, showing that both Ephraim and Manasseh are two separate tribes, right? And they're both going to receive the inheritance. They're both going to receive the land, right? It's just that Joseph and Ephraim are interchangeable, right? As Ephraim being the head over his brother, right? And over the northern kingdom, right? Because when the kingdom was split, right, Jeroboam was, I believe, an Ephraimite, right? And he was what, a ruler, a king over who? The northern kingdom, right? And Rehoboam was who? The king of it's like the king, the son of Solomon, man. It says, which is in the hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. This is what the sovereign Lord says when you read the NLT. I will take Ephraim and the northern tribes, right, and join them with Judah. I will make them one piece of wood in my hand, right? So now let's go into the book. Revelation 7, right? Because these are the 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, which consist of the governing body, the 144,000, the Alahayim, right? Those men whom Yahweh Shah are going to crown, right? And who are also going to be adorned in those white robes. This it's like Revelation 7 and 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of who? Of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. That's 3. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali, right, which is Naphtali, were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh, there you go, one of the sons were sealed 12,000. That's 6 tribes right there. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. That's 9. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000, which is who? Ephraim. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. So that's your 12,000 of each of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, right? When we go into the book of Revelation, the 21st chapter, it speaks about these the 12 gates, right? Which is likened unto each tribe having a stone, right? Or a gemstone, or a gate, man. Right. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna read this one. I'm going to go into another precept. But that's likened each tribe unto its stone, right? Instead, I'll go to the book of Joshua 14 and 3. And it reads, for Moses had given the inheritance of 2 tribes, and the half a tribe on the other side of Jordan, right? But unto the Levites he gave none inheritance among them. Why? Because Levi was in all the land, right? Because they were the priest set up to sacrifice amongst each of the it's like each of the tribes, man. So they didn't have a particular land because they were scattered throughout all of them, right? On behalf of what? Atoning for the sins of Israel. It says, for the children of Joseph were two tribes, right? Manasseh and Ephraim. Therefore, they gave no part unto the Levites in the land, save cities to dwell in and their suburbs for their cattle and for their substance. Right, I'm going to read that in the NLT. It says, the descendants of Joseph had become two separate tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. And we read how that occurred. And the Levites were given no land at all, only towns to live in with surrounding pasture lands for their livestock and for their possessions. So the land was distributed in strict accordance with the Lord's commands to Moses. All right, so we understand now Genesis the 48th chapter concerning what? Ephraim and Manasseh, them becoming or receiving forth those blessings as the rest of Jacob's sons, right? They were yoked in. And for anybody to have a problem with it, oh well, right? The Most High does what he wants. As the scripture says, your ways are not his ways, neither are your thoughts his thoughts, right? Hey, shall you say that there is unrighteousness with the Most High? But that's the point. That's the history and the yeah, the understanding to it, man. Hey, so Lord willing, the lesson was edifying unto the body. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of JMS Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakim, bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. Shalom.